He was the kind of man everyone admired. Sharp suit, confident smile. The kind of presence that made rooms go silent when he walked in. For years, Daniel built an empire, a company that carried his name, and a life that seemed untouchable. Success was his armor. Money was his language. And love, well, love was a luxury he thought he could afford later. But life has a way of humbling even the strongest hearts. One mistake, one wrong signature, and the empire he built with pride came crashing down. His partners turned their backs. Friends who toasted to his success suddenly stopped answering his calls. Even the woman who once said she'd love him through anything left a single note on the kitchen counter that read, "I can't do this anymore." He stood there for hours, staring at that note. Not angry, not surprised, just empty. The city outside still moved, lights flickering, cars rushing, people laughing. But inside that apartment, everything stood still. Silence had a sound, and Daniel could hear every beat of it. He poured himself a drink, then another, and another. Each sip a reminder that success had vanished, but regret stayed. He looked out the window, watching the city that once bowed to him. Now it didn't even know his name. For the first time in years, Daniel whispered something he never had before. "Maybe I deserve this." Days turned into weeks. The silence became louder. The phone that once rang every minute now sat still, covered in dust. Daniel stopped checking his emails. He stopped looking in the mirror. He stopped being Daniel. He'd wake up at noon, not because he slept late, but because he couldn't find a reason to rise early. The walls of his apartment felt smaller each day, closing in like a slow storm. Outside, the city moved on without him. New names filled the headlines, new faces took his place. He watched them sometimes on TV with a bitter smile. "Good for them," he'd mutter, pretending not to care. But deep down, he missed the sound of his name being spoken with respect. He missed the applause, the admiration, the illusion of being needed. He tried to drown the loneliness in noise. Music, movies, anything but silence. But every song reminded him of what he'd lost. Every movie showed him someone who still believed in love. And every night, before sleep finally dragged him under, he'd whisper the same words. "I wish someone still believed in me." He didn't know that someone soon would. Someone who had every reason to give up on life, but instead would teach him how to live again. It happened on a rainy Thursday. Daniel was sitting at the corner cafe, the one place where no one recognized him anymore. He liked it that way, a man invisible in a world that once watched his every move. She walked in quietly, umbrella dripping, hair a little messy, eyes tired but kind. She ordered tea, not coffee, then took the seat across from him, though half the cafe was empty. For a moment, he almost asked her to move, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the calm in her voice when she thanked the waiter. Maybe it was the way she looked outside, like she'd seen too much rain in her life too. They didn't speak for a while, just two strangers sharing silence. But somehow it didn't feel empty. When she noticed him staring, she smiled softly. "The rain's been falling for hours," she said. He nodded. "It doesn't plan to stop." She looked at him. Not the man the world had judged, but the man behind the tired eyes. "Rain never does," she replied. "But eventually, it softens." Her name was Emily. A nurse. Someone who had seen people at their worst and still chose to believe in the best. Before she left, she said something he hadn't heard in a long time. "Take care of yourself." 2 simple words. But that night, as Daniel lay in bed staring at the ceiling, those words echoed louder than any applause he had ever received. And for the first time in months, he smiled. The next time Daniel saw her, it wasn't by accident. He went back to the same cafe. Same table, same cup of black coffee he barely touched. And as if fate was listening, she walked in again. Emily. Same calm smile, same tired eyes. This time she noticed him first. "Looks like the rain brought us both back," she said with a soft grin. He chuckled quietly. Maybe it likes company. They talked a little more that day. About the rain. About how the world never slows down, even when your heart does. And when Daniel asked what she did for a living, she said, I work at the hospital. I help people heal." Then she looked at him and added, "But I think healing isn't just about medicine. Sometimes it's about sitting beside someone and letting them know they're not alone." Her words sank deep, like light finding its way through cracks he didn't know were still open. He didn't tell her who he was. Didn't mention the headlines, the failure, or the name everyone used to know. For the first time, he didn't want to be seen as Daniel Blake, the man who lost everything. He just wanted to be Daniel. Days turned into a quiet routine. They met at the cafe every Thursday. She'd drink tea. He'd pretend to drink coffee. They'd talk about everything and nothing, the kind of conversations that feel like breathing after drowning. One evening, as they walked out, he asked softly, "Why do you always look so calm, even when you talk about pain?" She stopped, looked up at the darkening sky, and said, "Because pain taught me patience. I lost someone too, and for a long time I forgot how to live. But then I realized, love doesn't end when someone leaves. It ends when we stop believing it matters." He didn't know what to say. Her voice shook a little at the end, but she smiled anyway. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He thought of her words, her calm, her strength. And for the first time, he realized he wasn't the only one trying to find his way back to life. Two broken souls, one trying to forget, one trying to forgive. And somehow, both were learning how to feel again. It started with little things. Emily always believed love didn't need grand gestures, just quiet consistency. One morning, when Daniel walked into the cafe, his coffee was already waiting. She had remembered his order, even though he never finished it. When he asked how she knew he'd come, she smiled and said, "Some people just feel like they'll show up." He didn't reply, but his heart did. They began to share more than words. She'd bring him cookies from the hospital cafeteria. Not great, she'd laugh, but edible. He'd fix the loose strap on her old umbrella in return. One Thursday, it rained harder than usual. The cafe's ceiling leaked right over her chair. Without thinking, Daniel stood and moved her cup, sliding his jacket over the chair. "You'll catch a cold," he said, pretending not to care. She smiled, that soft, knowing smile. "Then I'll have someone to bring me soup," she teased. It was in that moment, that tiny act of care, that something changed. He didn't know what it was called yet, but it felt warm, like a piece of the sun had found its way back to him. Over the next few weeks, Daniel began showing up earlier. Sometimes with flowers, for the table, he'd insist. Sometimes with stories, small pieces of his past that slipped out when she made him laugh. And one day, Emily said something that made him pause. "You know, Daniel, you smile differently now." He looked down. "Do I?" "Yes," she said softly. "It looks real this time." That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her words, because she was right. For the first time in a long time, his smile wasn't a performance. It was a reflection of peace, of warmth, of someone slowly finding the courage to hope again. And maybe, just maybe, love had already started growing. Quietly, gently, through small kindnesses. Daniel had always been good at control. Control over his business, control over his emotions, control over everything that could possibly hurt him. But with Emily, control slipped away. Every smile from her made him want to stay. Every silence between them made him afraid of what it meant to care again. One evening, they sat outside the cafe, rain drizzling softly, streetlights glowing gold. Emily was telling a story about one of her patients, a little boy who'd said, "Pain is just the body's way of asking for a hug." She laughed, but Daniel didn't. He just stared at her, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the way she spoke about pain like it was something sacred, something survivable. And that's when the panic set in. He excused himself abruptly. Didn't look back. Didn't text. Didn't return to the cafe for days. Emily waited. Every evening, same seat, same tea, same quiet hope. When he finally came back, he looked exhausted, like someone who'd fought a war and lost. "I told myself it was nothing," he said quietly. "That I didn't care, that I didn't need you." He swallowed hard. "But every day I stayed away. I missed you." Emily didn't rush to respond. She just listened. That's what she always did best. "You're scared," she said finally. "So am I." but fear doesn't mean we stop feeling. Her voice was calm, the kind of calm that heals, not hides. Daniel looked away, ashamed. I don't deserve you. She smiled gently. Then start becoming someone who does. Her words hit harder than any rejection, because for the first time he realized she wasn't trying to fix him. She was challenging him to rise. That night, Daniel didn't drink, didn't stare at the ceiling. He just sat by the window, watching the rain fall and thinking, maybe love isn't about being ready. Maybe it's about being willing. And for the first time since his fall, Daniel was willing to feel again, to try again, to believe again. It started small. A smile here, a laugh there, the kind of moments that didn't look like healing, but were. Daniel began visiting the cafe again. Not just for the coffee, not even for the rain, but for Emily. They'd sit by the window, their table now their corner. Some days they talked for hours. Other days they said nothing at all. And somehow both felt right. One afternoon, Emily brought him a small plant. It's hard to kill, she joked, even if you forget to water it. He chuckled. Then it'll fit right in. He placed it on his windowsill, the same window he once stared through in regret. And every morning after that, he watered it. One small act of care. For the first time, not out of guilt, but out of hope. They started doing small things together, feeding stray cats behind the cafe, volunteering at a shelter, watching old movies with popcorn and mismatched blankets. Each memory stitched a piece of him back together. And without realizing it, she was healing too. Emily's laughter was beautiful, but her silence carried stories he couldn't yet see. Some nights he caught her looking distant, eyes lost in memories she never spoke about. And he didn't push. He just stayed. One evening, as they walked home, the wind tugging at her scarf, Daniel stopped suddenly. Thank you, he said softly. For what? She asked. For showing me what it feels like to breathe again. Emily smiled, that quiet, patient smile of hers. Then she reached out, brushing the back of his hand with hers. No words, just a touch. Simple, human, healing. And in that moment, Daniel realized something he hadn't felt in years. The warmth of being seen. Love hadn't come back to his life in a rush. It had walked in quietly, sat beside him in silence, and healed him with kindness. The first sign was small. Emily missed their morning coffee. She texted, just a little tired today. Daniel smiled when he saw it. She was always taking care of others. Maybe she finally needed a rest. But the next day, she didn't show up. And the next, when he called, her voice was weak. I'm fine, Daniel, really. But he could hear it, that faint, trembling tone of someone pretending to be strong. He didn't hesitate. He went to her apartment, a small place filled with warmth, plants, and photos of the people she'd cared for. Emily opened the door slowly, her face pale, her hands shaking slightly. You shouldn't have come, she said softly. He smiled sadly. You know by now I don't listen very well. Inside, her teacup sat untouched. Her medication lay beside it. She tried to act fine, but the truth was written all over her. A heart condition, something she'd been managing quietly for years. Something she didn't want anyone to worry about. I didn't tell you because, she paused, searching for the words, because I didn't want to be another person who needed saving. Daniel's throat tightened. He took her hand gently. Emily, you were never someone I needed to save. He looked into her tired eyes. You're the one who saved me. She smiled faintly, a mix of pain and gratitude. I didn't want you to see me like this. He shook his head. I've seen you at your strongest. Let me see you at your weakest, too. From that day, Daniel stayed. He cooked for her. He cleaned. He read aloud when her chest hurt too much to talk. He even learned how to brew her favorite tea. Perfectly, every time. The man who once measured worth in success now found purpose in small acts of care. Every day he prayed quietly for her recovery. Every night he watched her breathe, realizing that love wasn't in grand gestures. It was in staying when everything else said run. And though her body was weak, Emily's spirit never dimmed. One evening she whispered to him, You know, the rain finally stopped. He looked outside. It had. But Daniel knew. The real storm had always been inside him. And somehow she had calmed it. Weeks passed. Slowly, quietly, the light began to return. Emily's color came back first. A little more warmth in her cheeks, a little more laughter in her voice. The doctor said she was healing well, but Daniel already knew that. He could see it every time she smiled at him from the hospital bed. Fingers curled weakly around his hand, like she was holding on not just to life, but to them. He visited her every day, morning and night. Sometimes with flowers, sometimes with stories, sometimes just to sit in silence and breathe beside her. On one of those quiet evenings, as the sun dipped low and painted the room in gold, Emily looked at him and said, "You know, I used to think love was about finding someone perfect." Daniel raised an eyebrow, and now? She smiled faintly. "Now I think it's about finding someone willing." He chuckled softly. "Willing to what?" "To stay," she whispered, "even when it hurts." Her words hit him deep, deeper than any success or loss ever had, because that's exactly what she had done. She stayed when the world left him, and now it was his turn. Days turned into weeks, and little by little Emily's strength returned. They took walks again, slow, short ones at first. They laughed at how out of breath she got after a few steps, and she'd tease him for fussing over her like a worried parent. But inside, Daniel wasn't laughing. He was learning that love isn't something you fall into. It's something you build, with patience, kindness, and faith. One evening, standing by the hospital window, he watched the sunset with her hand in his. The sky burned in shades of pink and gold, and for the first time in years, he whispered a prayer. Not for success, not for forgiveness, but for more time. Emily turned to him, smiling weakly. "You're different now, Daniel." He looked at her, eyes soft. "Maybe I just finally remembered who I was supposed to be." Outside, the rain began again, gentle, rhythmic, alive. But this time, it wasn't a storm. It was a song. And for both of them, it sounded like hope. The air was fresh that morning, the kind of calm that follows a storm. Emily stood by the window of her small apartment, wrapped in a cream shawl, watching the rain drizzle softly against the glass. Daniel walked up behind her, his arms sliding around her waist as if afraid she'd disappear if he let go. "It's raining again," she said softly. He smiled. "Seems the sky's as sentimental as we are." She laughed, a sound he hadn't heard in months, light and full of life. They had come so far, from heartbreak to healing, from silence to prayer, from almost losing everything, to finding something stronger than both pain and pride. Forgiveness. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small ring. Simple, silver, but shining like it carried the whole universe. Emily froze. Her lips parted, her eyes wide. He didn't kneel. He didn't need to. This wasn't a proposal of tradition. It was a promise born out of everything they'd survived. "Emily," he said quietly, "I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know what I want it to mean. More laughter, more faith, more us. Not perfect, just true." Tears welled in her eyes, and she placed her hand gently over his. "Then promise me one thing," she whispered. "No matter what happens next, we'll keep choosing each other, even when it's hard." He nodded, his voice breaking. "I promise." The ring slid onto her finger, not as a symbol of possession, but of presence. And in that small apartment, with rain whispering blessings on the window, two souls who had been broken by life finally chose to build again, brick by brick, prayer by prayer, love by love. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance, not in warning, but like applause. Because sometimes, after the hardest storms, God doesn't send sunshine. He sends a second chance.